MMOs suck nowadays. I suck, you suck, he, she, we sucks. Look, if you've been around the block, you'll know a lot of people out there like to be down and out about MMORPGs, and maybe you are yourself. But as someone who has been playing MMORPGs for most of my life, and have been hearing that MMOs are gonna die any day now for I want to say the last 15 years, I think it's a pretty good time to go over how I managed burnout, and how I rekindled a love that I thought was also dying as well. For the love of the MMO. Hello, everybody. I am Jmulls, and let's get down to business.
You needed time.
Let's begin by talking about burnout and overall boredom with the genre. And I'm not about to sit here and try and tell you that MMORPGs are the best they've ever been. Depending upon what you're looking for out of an MMO, that is highly subjective. But I'm also not all doom and gloom about MMORPGs either. I'm not going to be sitting here trying to tell you that all MMOs are dying and they're going to be an extinct species like RTS in a couple of years. I've been hearing that line of thinking for a long time at this point, and it still hasn't come to pass. But sometimes we get burnt out on a game because either we've played the game so much, we know the game inside and out, so nothing really hits anymore, or the game does have a bit of a decline in overall quality, or we just get used to what they put out the door all the dang time, so we just get bored and burnt out even faster than we ordinarily would. I'm not going to sit here and try and tell you that it's all within your head or anything like that, but I do find that there are some techniques you can utilize to reinvigorate your love for the genre. Sometimes it can be a matter of just taking a simple break from the games, or trying out other MMOs, or even just trying out different classes and jobs within the same MMO that you're playing. There's a lot of little techniques that you can do just to spice things up, because I tend to find that if you're doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, unless you have a very specific type of personality, chances are over time that's going to become dull and uninteresting to you, because, well, imagine eating the same meal over and over and over again with no variance or change up. You can still love that meal, but over time your tongue's going to become tired of the same sensations over and over again. I felt the same way when it came to World of Warcraft. And it got to the point where, because of the decline of the quality of the product being put out the door on top of the burnout I was feeling for the game, I stepped away from World of Warcraft thinking I was never going to come back. And then I came back, right? A tale as old as time when it comes to WoW players. And right now, I'm loving WoW arguably more than ever. And it's not because that I think World of Warcraft is in the best state that it's ever been in, but I think it's because I've realigned how I'm approaching World of Warcraft. I am someone who likes to play a bunch of other games. That's just my preference. And for me, MMORPGs are a great filler game in between those other releases. Something I can always dive back into and have a good time with it. And with the way that both World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV, my two main MMOs, operate and update their content, they fit that kind of schedule rather well, to where I can get what I want out of my MMOs for a while, perhaps take a step back, play something else, and then when I come back to either World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XIV, I can come back to them feeling fresh and renewed, and enjoy those games more than if I just stuck with them in perpetuity. Not everyone plays multiple MMOs. Some people have only played one MMO ever in their life, and there's nothing wrong with that. Because I think what I'm trying to talk about here applies to either if you play one MMO only, or if you play a bunch of them. Being able to say, you know what? I've put a lot of hours into this, I put a lot of time and investment into this product. I think for right now, I want to take a step back, go do something else, and then return to this at a later juncture. In my experience, that is one of the best things that you can do just to reinvigorate your love for the genre and for these specific games. However, that doesn't apply to everyone.
If history must be unwritten.
Look, a lot of us have been here before. What if you're just really in the mood to play your MMO, but you don't know what you want to do in the MMO? Maybe you don't like raiding or doing high-end content like Mythic Plus or anything like that. Or maybe you do, but you're just kind of tired of doing those activities over and over and over again. You've been there, done that, and you don't know what you want to do, but you really know that in your heart of hearts you want to put more time into the game. I tend to find a lot of MMOs nowadays have a breadth of content that, for a lot of people, you never experience all of it, or you just kind of write it off for whatever reason. Again, I'm going to be talking specifically about Final Fantasy XIV and World of Warcraft in this video, because those are my wheelhouses, but I'm sure this applies to pretty much any MMO you can think of, or at least most of them. A lot of the times we can kind of boil these games down to just, there's PvP, dungeons, and raiding, and that's kinda it. outside of like leveling. But there can be so much more you can get out of these games if you're willing to go outside of your comfort zone and just experiment and try something that ordinarily you may find to be off-putting or you just wouldn't give the time of day. You can go gather minions / pets or mounts or transmog and glamour and stuff like that if your game has a housing system and you can actually get one Final Fantasy XIV. You could engage in that system and try to go for an aesthetic that you specifically want. Maybe you're not someone who has an artistic side to them. You're someone who is more interested in the mechanical side of things. Okay, go out and see if your game has a big solo challenge that you can partake in. Like for World of Warcraft, you have the Nemesis Delves, where you're fighting one big boss fight by yourself or with like Grand Bronzebeard. Champion! Oh wait, that's Magni. Or in Final Fantasy XIV, you can try and go back to do some of the old deep dungeons solo if you want. Or go grind some old variant dungeons to get some glamour sets from them or whatnot. You can do a lot in these games that you may know have existed for the longest time, you just never really wanted or had the time or the energy to really interface with them before. For instance, in World of Warcraft, you have skywriting tournaments or fishing tournaments, or heck, even pet battles. Yeah, you've probably heard of the pet battle system in World of Warcraft before, but it's essentially like a Temu version of Pokemon. It's kind of okay, and setting aside a few minutes every now and then to interface with the system can be rather fun and a good way to just spice up your overall experience with the game. Heck, sometimes it can be as simple as just trying to go play a different class or job. In Final Fantasy XIV, I haven't been really feeling job design for a little bit here. It has compromised my enjoyment when I've tried to go play other pieces of content because I'm not just really enjoying the buttons that I'm pressing. And well, with the new relic grind being essentially roulette farming, I decided, well, I can play some Red Mage while I do this and level that thing up because I haven't really touched Red Mage for a good little while at this point. And you know what? I really enjoy Red Mage. I find it to be super fun. I like the flow of that job. I enjoy pressing my buttons. And there's a hell of a lot more that I can say for the jobs I had been playing in Final Fantasy XIV throughout the last expansion or so. It's made me more excited to log into Final Fantasy XIV because I'm like, I can play a little bit more Red Mage today. Being willing to go outside of your comfort zone and engage in systems the games offer that you may not have ordinarily associated with something that you would find enjoyable can be a big breath of fresh air. I'm not saying you have to dedicate all your time to do these things, but like every now and then they can break up the flow and just change up the flavor of the experience, and that can go a really long way. This is going to be rather similar to a previous point that I made, but be willing to go outside your comfort zone and try out other MMORPGs. If you've only ever played one MMO, like Final Fantasy XIV, or World of Warcraft, or RuneScape, and you go, you know what, I'm just not feeling it anymore. Maybe the game has gone in a direction that you no longer find particularly palatable, or you've just played it so much it no longer feels fresh and new and feels stale and boring and repetitive. Going out and trying out a different MMO can be one of the healthiest things that you can do. Not only to see how those games handle being an MMO, what their take and twist on the genre is, but maybe one of those other games like Guild Wars 2 or Old School RuneScape or Elder Scrolls Online or Star Wars The Old Republic or insert other MMO here. Maybe those games just, with the way they're constructed, appeal to your sensibilities more than the other games that you have played. That is entirely possible. And maybe you end up going, you know what, I kind of enjoy this other MMO more than the one I've been playing. Maybe I should just stick with this. Feel free to do that for a bit. Have that initial wanderlust of experiencing a brand new world and becoming enraptured and engrossed in those experiences. Be willing to do that. And if at some point down the line you go, you know what, I thought this may have been for me at some point, but it's not really my cup of tea. I'd rather go back to the other game I was playing. Be willing to do that as well, because sometimes if you go to play a different MMO, and I can speak from experience here, if you go to play a different MMO and then you go back to the game you've been mainlining for the longest time, you can gain a new sense of appreciation for what either game does, and it can often lead to you enjoying the game even more than before. Or maybe the new game you try out, just in totality, you just enjoy it way more. You have to be willing to be honest with yourself and not allow a sunk cost fallacy to take over your entire gaming experience. Your goal should be to find the game that gives you the greatest pleasure and the best experiences. Sometimes that's the game that you've been playing for almost a decade, if not longer. Sometimes it's a game you haven't ever experienced before. Just because you've dumped a bunch of time and hours and investment, both emotional and also financial, into a game, that doesn't mean you owe it your future. It doesn't mean that you're betraying it if you go and try something else. No, it's a video game at the end of the day. You should be going into these games wanting a selfish pleasure. There's nothing wrong with that. And if a game no longer provides you a sense of satisfaction, if a game is no longer fun and interesting to you like it used to be, you have to be willing to tell yourself that and say, you know what, I think it's best if I just step away. I did that with World of Warcraft. Back in the days of Battle for Azeroth and Shadowlands, I no longer got joy out of that game. And I no longer believed the game was being developed to please someone like me. So I stepped away from the game and I left. You want to know when I came back? When that was no longer applicable. When the content and what they were doing with the game felt far more in line with what I would want out of it. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. And you know what? Let's cover that right now. The pursuit of perfection.
Are we clear?
Look, if you've been around the block, you'll know the biggest haters of any MMO are the people that play it. Without fail, without exception. People dedicate so much time and investment, both, like I said before, emotionally and also financially into these games, they become attached. They start to really truly care about the direction these games are going. And I can find a lot of people that will take things that are rather small and probably insignificant in the grand scheme of things just in a vacuum, but you blow up these like minuscule examples to the highest degrees, way beyond what they actually represent in game, all in this delusion that the games are ever going to be perfect. MMORPGs appeal to a wide range of players, those who want a very mechanically intensive experience and those who want a very laid-back experience. MMOs appeal to a wide variety of players. They're never going to be 100% designed around a singular mindset. Or if they are, those are really rare examples. No MMO is ever going to be perfect. And if you go into a game or continue going into a game expecting it to be perfect all the time, you are going to be eminently and forever disappointed with the game. Can these games be better? 100%. Do they deserve constructive feedback and criticism? 100%. Absolutely. Beyond a shadow of a doubt. But you have to be able to understand that not everything is going to appeal to you. Not everything is going to fire in all cylinders. Not everything is going to stick the landing. There are going to be mess-ups. There are going to be speed bumps along the road where these games dip in quality. It just happens. For instance, in 11.1.7, World of Warcraft had a new patch. And in that patch, they had a new quest line. It was hot garbage. And a lot of people, rightfully in my opinion, made fun of that quest line because it was terrible. However, a lot of the other quests in the war within are pretty dang good and far better than that one quest. So you can either like hyperfixate on that one quest and say, oh, Blizzard hasn't changed. Oh, typical old Blizzard. What is this garbage? Why is it animated like this? It looks terrible, feels terrible, sounds terrible. It's terrible. You can either hyperfixate on that one thing, or you can look at everything else they've been doing and say, you know what? Yeah, it's not perfect, but they are doing a lot of good. I don't intend for this to sound like dismissing rightful criticism or anything like that. What I am saying, though, is if your goal is to have a pleasurable experience, if your goal is to have fun with the video game that you have, in my opinion, it's way, way, way better to focus in on the elements that you enjoy and that you take pleasure in, rather than hyperfixating on the things that you don't like or that you find distasteful. If you run into something that's bad or subpar and you go, you know what, that kind of sucked, these are the reasons why it sucked, I'm gonna move on with my life. Hey, this is really cool, I want to focus on this thing way more. This doesn't just apply to MMOs, this applies to gaming overall. I think you'll have a genuinely better experience, because once I've started going to games with that mindset, I've been having a way better time of things. Not just in MMOs, but in other games as well. Because if you go into a game looking for flaws and looking for things to not like, you're going to find those things, and possibly you're going to divert way too much attention and energy to the things that you don't like, and blow them possibly out of proportion than what they actually deserve, compared to the things that are good. If you go into something looking for things to like, something to enjoy, you may appreciate more than you ordinarily would. And you know what? I find that to be way better than the opposite. I would rather look for things that I enjoy and have a better time of things at the end of it all than go into something saying, you know what, this isn't good, this all isn't good because of this one thing, or this other thing, or this other thing. That sucks. It genuinely just sucks. And it's also boring, and it makes games way less fun and interesting. So I think the biggest piece of advice that I can give, as someone who has been playing MMORPGs since I was a kid, go into a game actively looking for things to like, things to appreciate. Be willing to take your time to stop and smell the proverbial roses. And if you aren't liking something, get through it as fast as possible, or just stop interacting with it for a period of time and move on to other things that you do like. Focus your energy, your time on the things that you like and looking for more things to like instead of more things to dislike. Don't approach everything as if you're an internet critic, because it can drastically poison a lot of the things that otherwise you probably would have enjoyed way more. I don't think it's fair to yourself. At the end of it all, it's a video game. You should be looking to be engaged by the product.
I need you with me on the wall.
MMOs aren't dying. Maybe they're not as popular as they used to be, if that's even the case at all, but a lot of people still play these games. And there's still a lot of interesting things that these games are doing on the horizon. Are they all perfect? No. Could some games use a lot of revision? Absolutely. Given the current state of the game, is it possible that you could approach the games in a different mindset to get more enjoyment out of them? Honestly, probably as well. And that goes for me as well. It's a video game. The goal should be to find a way to enjoy it as much as you can. Sometimes that's an out-of-the-box experience. Sometimes we have to approach it from a different perspective to gain a newfound sense of appreciation for the thing. Sometimes it involves playing it even more. Sometimes it involves stepping away from it, trying other things, and then coming back to it. And maybe other times it's admitting to yourself that maybe MMOs just aren't for you anymore. And maybe down the line you'll say, you know what, I feel the itch again. You have to be willing to go with those swings and find the games that produce the best enjoyment for you. And also be willing to take a step outside of your comfort zone. I've been playing retail WoW for most of my life, which is kind of crazy to say when I think about it, you know? And I've recently dived a little bit into classic WoW to spice things up, and you know what? I've been really enjoying myself. On my orc warrior in the barrens, farming zebras and oh my and everything. It's a breath of fresh air, and you know what? It's making me enjoy MMOs even more. You have to be willing to go outside of your comfort zone and to be willing to try new things, because one of those new things may end up being something that really resonates and clicks with you, and you would never know if you don't go out of your way to try it. And you would never know if you weren't willing to go out of your way to try it. So here's where you come in. Leave a comment down below with what MMORPG you've played the most throughout your life, or the one that you're playing the most right now, and what would you love to see out of that game or the genre moving forward into the future. I'd love to hear your thoughts and hear your opinions and hear your perspectives. And if you want more MMO coverage, you should leave a like and subscribe. Follow me on TikTok, Twitch, and Twitter, JMullsG, Instagram, Jmulls Gaming. I have a Discord in the description down below. And speaking of World of Warcraft, did the story of the latest expansion, The War Within, fail? Was it all that it was hyped up to be? Well, no, I mean, it's not perfect, but I don't think it's a failure either. And if you want to hear more, you should check out this video right here. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again.